So anyway,
That's a good
mom,
question.
maybe it is your fault. I don't know. We'll have to.
Please, she's one of our biggest listeners. We don't
She
want
is.
to alienate her here. So, happy Mother's Day.
Happy
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you.
Thanks,
Hope you're
Mom.
listening. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or therapy. Our full disclaimer can be found in the show notes. Enjoy the show. Welcome, everyone, to the Man Up Together podcast. My name is Alex Peskin, and I'm here with my lifelong friend and co-host, Bobby Jacobs. Bobby, we are recording the day after Mother's Day.
After Mother's Day.
How'd Mother's Day go?
It was good. We had a good time. We did some arts and crafts project. My wife sends me the subtle messages on Instagram of this looks like it could be fun.
Get me this.
Yeah, so it's good, right? Because it gives you the playbook of this is what I like to do on Mother's Day, which I'm always a fan of. So we did some art projects outside with the girls. They did some handprint plaster things. We went to an art festival, local art festival, which is a lot of fun. Went out for lunch, so it was good. A lot of mom and family time, which was good.
Very nice.
How about
Yeah,
you?
we had a lot of mom and family time as well. We usually plant some flowers in our
Nice.
flower pots for the year.
Okay,
Once a year.
I love it.
We didn't have time this weekend because things are pretty nuts, but we're
Yeah.
going to do that next weekend. Just had some time with the family. One thing that was interesting, we're having painters come to do some work, and they said, "Hey, can we come this weekend?" It's like, "Yeah, come on Saturday."
Sure.
They missed it. They're like, "How about Sunday?" I said, "Mother's Day's not great." And that's all I said. They didn't get back to me. 3 hours later, they get back. They go, "Oh my gosh, I forgot."
Let me translate. Thanks for the reminder.
Yes.
I'm going to go and do something for my mom. And
Yeah,
I love it.
I'm actually not available either that time. So that was pretty
Oh,
funny.
that's good. Yeah. Well, that sounds like fun. I like that tradition. Planting something. My wife said she'd like to do arts and crafts thing every year with the girls and kind of have that be our little tradition. So
I like the idea
Yeah.
of a tradition. Even just the kids know
Yeah.
what to expect, and we know what to aim for
Right.
as well.
it's a good
So yeah,
point.
that's good.
I was on a work trip this past week and I forgot, sorry, mom, about getting her a card. So I got one in Texas while I was there, and I walked to the post office and mailed the card to her. And the lovely woman at the post office guaranteed me that the card would make it to Tallahassee by Mother's Day.
For sure didn't happen.
It did not. Nope,
Yeah.
100% didn't happen. So sorry, mom. We'll hopefully the card shows up today. One day late shouldn't be too bad.
Like,
But yeah, it's yeah, it was one of those. I got to walk away from a work meeting for a second.
yeah, I completely forgot something pretty important.
Got to go to CVS for a second.
On that note, happy Mother's Day, moms.
Happy Mother's
and the
Day.
moms in our lives.
Which dovetails well into our episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk
Fun.
all about moms today.
We had a dad's episode, Big Daddy.
Yeah, we have a lot of dad issues, and so it'll be good to at least mention that we have some pretty good moms too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. So let's jump into,
Why do I like this?
so for today, for Why Do Men Like This, we're going to talk about mamas.
Absolutely.
Why do men like their mamas?
We've done a lot of Adam Sandler references, and we can bring in Waterboy, and he loves his mama, and I think we love our mamas too. Why do men like their moms? It's the same kind of reason that we love our dads. They fill different roles in our lives. We're going to talk about some of those roles today. Why do we love our moms? Our moms are there. They're I would say, the first people that love us unconditionally, right?
Mhm.
And they're the first people that are truthfully the ones that would do anything for us. So why do we love our moms? Because they love us, right? I
Yeah.
think that's the easiest answer to
Yeah.
why do we love our moms?
That's the safest reason to love anything, because
Right.
you already know it's going to love you back.
Reciprocal love is
Yeah.
always the easiest kind to
So that's
give out.
good. And I
Yeah.
know some people have more complicated relationships with their mothers than other people. Maybe some people don't feel the same unconditional love as I know we do
Yeah.
from our mothers, but we're talking in general. Why is this a major part of men's lives? Why is this a good thing?
I have some thoughts. So
Uh-huh.
why is it a good thing? I think moms sometimes bring that softer part of our lives.
Mhm.
And as we think about sometimes where men can kind of have that quote unquote rough around the edges type of approach to things, at least in my personal experience, moms can bring that softness in. Moms can bring a level headedness in that may be absent a little bit from my life for sure. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Why is it good?
I like that. Later, we're going to talk more about relationships with mothers. And one of the things that we are going to talk about is gender roles. And
Yeah.
so I like that you're already kind of bringing up there's something different we get from female parents than we do from male parents. Oftentimes that is a softness, and it makes a lot of sense. I guess one of the things I think of, why is it a good thing that we like our moms, probably is because if we like our moms, it must mean that they're doing something right.
Yeah.
And so it's maybe less direct than we usually go, but why do we like them? Because we're being well taken care of by them,
Yeah.
because we're being shown that we're safe and loved and going to be provided for in our lives. And that does sound like a good thing that can have some positive impact on us throughout our lives as well.
Yeah. I think that's another thing for me too is it's a model for my children. It's a
Yeah.
model for my girls to see, what does that love look like towards their mom. That can help to build out. But our my mom's role has changed in my life as I've gotten older, right? As I've gone through the different seasons of
Yeah.
life. Now she's a grandmother. And so, why is it a good thing? Is because I think it gives our moms the opportunity to experience so many different new parts of their life as well. For those moms that have that opportunity to make that transition to grandma, I think that could be something fun for them as well.
Yeah, I like that. I think what I'm hearing is, why is it a good thing that we like our moms? Also, that we get to experience them in new ways throughout our lives, and they
Yeah,
get to experience us in new ways throughout our lives. That just sounds like creating richer, deeper relationships.
sure.
And
Absolutely.
so I think that that's a really important point. We
Yeah,
have a much different relationship with our parents when we are a toddler, when we are a teenager,
right.
when we have our own kids. And that can be tricky, I think, from the child's point of view, from the
Yeah,
parent's point of view, but also can be really beautiful when it comes out well.
absolutely. But I think there are people that don't have that positive relationship, and maybe dovetails into why can it be a challenge
Right.
sometimes?
Yeah. Why can it be a challenge, right? Instead of why is this bad?
Right.
What can end up being not so good is that it's harder to feel that love.
Yeah,
Maybe there is a more complicated relationship, more pain in that relationship that makes it not as obvious. Like we're sitting here saying, because of the experience we
yeah,
had from our mothers, maybe there are other people listening saying, that's not how I would have
yeah.
talked about it in
Well,
this segment.
and
Sure.
sometimes there's a distance, I think, that I've seen in certain relationships. We're not talking about it's not a bad thing,
Yeah.
but why can it be challenging
It's
to
not bad to
to
love
love
your
our
mom.
moms? Is it can become hard. I'm not living the same life. Things have changed, and my relationship is likely going to change as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way I think about the why can it be
So,
challenging?
there's one more thing that comes up for me, and I wonder how you see this.
Yeah.
But I think about the idea of a mama's boy.
Ooh, okay.
I wonder where that plays in, why is this good or why is this
Sure.
maybe not so good? I guess we could go back into why is this a good thing? Because it must mean you feel really taken care of
Yeah.
by your mother. But I think the why is that part maybe not as positive
Sure.
moving forward. I think the stereotype of a mama's boy is someone who maybe is taken care of to a point that he doesn't necessarily learn how to take care of himself
It's
or
a
other
very good
people.
way to put that.
Yeah.
It's a really good way. It's a delicate thing,
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one of these, you have had things done for you for such a long period of time that you haven't learned to do those things for yourself. It's time to what do they say?
Right.
Break the umbilical cord, right?
Ah, right. But yeah, there's a lot about learning how to take initiative
Yeah.
and how that impacts relationships when someone like that becomes a part of a romantic relationship.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, it can be a little bit trickier in those points. But also, just to kind of name another part of this, that mothers treat their children that way sometimes, not because they have any ill will
Oh,
or
absolutely.
because they think they can't handle it or anything negative. I like to believe that parents usually treat their kids the way they think is going to be best for them.
Yes.
And sometimes we just miss. And sometimes we miss by a mile. Sometimes we miss by half an inch.
Right.
And I think the one where you're a little more nurturing, overprotective, I think you're missing closer to the half an inch than a mile in that one. And just takes a little adjustment.
Yeah, I would agree. The vast majority of our moms want what's best for us. And
Mhm.
that includes showing others in our lives how they would want us to be treated.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of good parts of understanding the importance of having a mom,
Loving our
having loving
moms.
parents. Not everybody
Yeah.
has mothers, but having
Yeah.
loving parents and people who want to take care of us. We'll talk more about the gender roles there, but let's actually jump into our deep dive today because we do want to talk more about the relationships with our mothers.
Yeah.
And so we'll move into that now. So in this section, we're going to split it up into 3 parts.
Yep.
We're going to talk a little bit about our relationships with our mothers. We're going to talk a little bit about what we learned about gender roles growing up in our homes. And then we'll close out by talking about what that has turned into in our relationships with our partners who have become mothers as well.
I love it.
Yeah. So jumping into the first part, just talking about our relationships with our mothers, I'm wondering for you, even just like a higher level, what kind of comes up when we were just talking about that parents generally have positive intention for all that they do. They just don't always know exactly what works. So I wonder what kind of comes up for you when you think about that.
Oh man. It's a great question. My earliest memories of my relationship with my mom, she always did have my best intentions. And I'll say my brothers, my best intentions, the best wishes, the best goals for my brother and I. I think that as we have grown, and as I have grown throughout my life, the way that she has pushed us towards that has changed. And it's been really interesting to see that. My mom is a very kind, caring, loving person, but she's also not she's not going to create that mama's boy. I don't know if that's coming across. She's not the lovey-dovey, gonna smother you in kisses and hugs all the time. Now, again, my mother will kiss. My mother will hug. She is a very caring and affectionate person.
She also means business.
She means business, right?
Yeah.
And she shows it a little bit
that in love.
differently. Exactly. And so you were asking the question of, how does it sometimes come? I think my mom she's done work to try and figure out how to be present or be her full mom, if you will, throughout our lives. And now obviously, as I can maybe look back along some of these, I can go, oh yeah, that's what she was trying to do. Maybe she wasn't just trying to be a jerk. Maybe she was trying to teach us a lesson. She was trying to help us grow in a certain way. She was trying to help us mature. Obviously, hindsight is always 2020. So I don't know. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So when I think about growing up, my mom was always very available for me. She stopped working early on when she had me, and we spent time together after preschool, and all the activities were kind of through her.
Yep.
My dad was involved and part of everything, but she was definitely the one who kind of ran all that. And I think that led to us having a very close relationship. I remember she was always very on top of everything for us. School,
schedule was
nothing would be lost because she was always on top of everything. And one other thing that really stands out to me is I've talked about this in other episodes, but I'm not very forthcoming with my emotions, and it feels a little bit scarier for me to do that. I do remember throughout my life that she always knew anyways. And so she could always read my signals and cues and would check in when she knew there's probably something wrong. He's just not someone who's ever going to talk about it.
It's that sixth mom sense.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
And so those are the things that really stand out to me as really important. I also think in some ways my mom meant business.
Absolutely.
Similar to your mom, where she wasn't always the mushiest, but she for sure was on top of the things that we needed to be on top of in our lives. And I value that very much. I think it's interesting to compare that to my mom and dad, but we can talk about that when we get into the gender roles.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about as you've been talking, one of the things I've been thinking about is we're both first children in our respective families. And I think as I look back and literally as I'm speaking, looking back now, I know that when I had my first daughter, I still don't know what I'm doing as a parent. But my mom, I'm sure, was in the same boat. Like, oh, here's a living person. I need to take care of this living person, and that was me at the time. And I would wonder, be really curious to maybe ask our siblings some of these same questions. Or I think it'd be interesting to ask other people who are not firstborn in their family to see kind of what their feelings are on some of these. There's no there are lots of books out there on parenting,
For sure.
but there is no handbook
Yeah.
on how to be a parent, and you learn as you go. And I can absolutely see these times where my mom was learning as she went, in our lives and in our relationships.
Yeah, that's actually interesting to think about on my side too. I imagine me and my sister and brother all have different
Yeah,
experiences of what it was like to grow up. And I think we all probably can say we had very positive relationships with our mother. But I had the mother who was 23
right.
and never had a kid before. My sister had the mother who's been doing this for almost 5 years and was almost 28.
Yeah,
And my brother had a 31-year-old mother who's like, "Oh,
season
this
from
again?
third
Yeah,
kid.
this ain't nothing."
Yeah,
And so I imagine that made all of our relationships very different.
yeah,
And the way that we relied on her, or even she relied on us, probably was different throughout
yeah.
our lives because of that. So I like that you brought that up. I think that's a really interesting point to be able to think about.
We talk a lot in most of the episodes about how our backgrounds and our experiences kind of dictate the people that we are. And I think about my mom as the parent that she was growing up, and I think about her parents. Her parents both immigrants. My grandmother from Israel. My grandfather immigrated after the Holocaust from Europe to Israel, and my mom was born in Canada and then immigrated to the U.S. with her family. And her parents had a different way of
Mhm.
life than I think maybe some of the more quote unquote traditional ways of parenting in the US. And I look at the way that she was raised. And my mom is also the oldest child in her family. So I see a lot of the similarities between maybe some of the ways that she was raised to the way that I was raised to the way that
Yeah.
my oldest daughter is raised. And again, I think it's important to take that time to think back on what drives the person that my mom is, and it is
Mhm.
her experiences. It is the way that she was brought up. It's the way that she grew up. And I think that it's fun now to look back at some of that and see what that looked like for her.
I like the kind of acknowledging what we are also is impacted by what came before us.
Exactly.
We're sitting here saying, how are we impacted by our mothers? Wait a minute. They also had mothers. And so I think that's really important. When I think about my mom, right, she was 23
Yeah.
when she had her first child. Also, in that 23 years, she did not have an excellent model of what it looked like to be a parent. She had parents.
Sure.
Her mother was a single mom for a while she was younger, and they had a tricky relationship. And so that's something to think about. Even just thinking about it kind of makes me appreciate a
Yeah.
little bit more. I always think about, what do we want to do when we're older with roles we've seen before? We either want to emulate it
Mhm.
or make sure not to emulate it.
Yeah.
I think on my side, it's closer to emulate. I think
Okay.
we always want to grow and do a little
Right.
bit different and maybe try and do something that feels better for us. But I imagine for my mom, there wasn't a lot of, this is exactly what I want to emulate. This is what I know I don't want to emulate. And she
And
kind
sometimes
of
that's
had,
a lot harder because you know what it does. You know what you don't want it to look like, but because you haven't seen what that looks like, it's hard maybe to put that into perspective.
yeah,
It's
you
hard
have
to
no
put into
playbook,
practice.
right? You have,
Exactly.
right. If you know what you want to do because you've seen it, you kind of have the playbook in front of you. If you know what you don't want to do,
Yeah.
all right, here's what I shouldn't put in the playbook, but I still have to write the playbook myself.
Exactly.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot of appreciation for that just in here thinking about that.
That's a good point.
Mm.
So I'm going to ask, what is, give me your earliest mom memory? What's the earliest memory you got? I didn't prepare you. I didn't prepare you for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I think of is the house we lived in when I was very young. It was
Mhm.
just me. Probably my mom would pick me up from preschool at this point. I don't know exactly what happened all
Sure.
day, but I remember at the end of the day, we'd be at home and we'd be waiting for my dad to come home. And it was me and her, and we would be doing things to kill the time. And I think she would help me like hide so that when my dad would come home, I would pop out. But I just remember that was a specific time that just
Yeah.
feels like this was me and my mom, or I guess my dad was about to come home.
Right.
So this is about to not just be. So it stood out.
Yeah.
This is the time that's just me and her, and we're spending time together and connecting. And
I
yeah,
love that.
that's the thing that pops up most for me.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
What about you?
So mine has to do with the ice cream truck. So we lived
Cool.
growing up. We lived in a little neighborhood in South Florida when I was born, and the ice cream truck would always come through. I say in the summer, but it's Florida, so
When it
I'm
was
pretty
hot.
sure it was always coming
When it
through.
was hot, December,
Right.
March.
But I remember we would, go to the ice cream truck and every so often we would get ice cream. But I also remember very distinctly, I had a unique haircut when I was 3, 4, or 5 years old. I had a little rat tail. And I don't remember exactly what happened. I just remember that there was like some reference, whether it was the neighbor or a family friend, about my hairdo that I had going on, that undoubtedly my mom was in charge of my hair. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate the rat tail.
It was in style back then.
It was in style. And then I remember that there was, a surfer cut, and I wanted the surfer cut, which I think was just a bowl cut.
Oh, nice.
But things, man, times were different, and you think about things back then. We're not that old. I mean, we're getting close.
We kind of
We're
are.
not that old. It's fun to think about some of those memories.
I like that. So when you think about how you were raised and what some of that might come from your mom, is there something in particular that you think about that makes you say, well, that is something where I was handed the playbook, and that is something that I want to keep in my playbook now?
I love that. I think one of the things that my mom has always been a very respectful person. I remember my mom for years, the statement of I don't like lying. I don't like liars. And while that may just seem like a no shit Sherlock type of a thing, that's something that has stuck and I think is very important. And so the respect in a relationship, the respect in everything that you do with the people that you interact with every single day is something that I think definitely I can directly correlate that to conversations and experiences, and I would say maybe ideals that my mom has. So what about you?
I like that. The funny thing is, I asked you the question, and in my head, I was like, oh no, now I have to think of an answer. So, what I think of is my mom, I believe, had high standards
Okay.
for me and my siblings. And I think one of the ways that impacted me was pressure. But I think most of how it impacted me was it felt like she believed in me and thought I can do more and better and great at things. And I want to keep that. I want to
Like
keep,
that.
how can I have a standard for my children that makes them think, wow, my dad really thinks I can do great things and believes in me and wants to help me. That was a big part of it too. Whatever her standards were, she would do whatever it took to help.
Yeah.
And so I would like to keep that one in my playbook
I
as
like
well.
that.
Thanks, Mom. We kind of started it off.
Yeah.
We're talking about our moms, what we learned from them, what it means for us. So now let's move into talking about this as our families are kind of more connected to it. So this section, let's talk a little bit about what gender roles can look like in heterosexual families. We both grew up with a mother and a father in the home. I think we learned a little bit about what it means to be a man and what it means to be the woman in the house from what we saw them, whether that's what everybody learned the same or whether it needs to be right or wrong. We learn it nonetheless.
Right.
I think about the different roles that my parents played. I told you when I was very young, my mom stopped working. She did end up going back to work at some point, but she did stop working for a while. It was assumed that my dad, I guess he made more money. He is the one who would continue to work, and my mom would stay home and take care of the house and take care of the children during the day. And I think that definitely impacted our relationships as well. Who's the one who's kind of the nurturing, taking care of day in and day out. But also she was the one who did the cooking and who did the laundry. And well, she was one who did the cooking except for grilling. We can call back to our
meat episode, right? Yeah.
Yes, she could grill, but if the grill was going on, my dad is the one who wanted to do that.
Because that was the role that was assumed for him, right?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So that was a part of it. I think no matter how hard my dad worked during the day and how hard my mom worked during the day, and even when my mom went back to school and then back to work, she still held most of those roles. I think my dad started to do a little bit more of the cooking around dinner time. And I don't know if he helped with the laundry or other things like that, but she still kind of maintained those roles. And one role that was hers always was planning.
Okay.
Planning, logistics,
Like schedule keeping for the family.
all of the
Got it.
schedule. She made sure we got to all of our appointments.
This is like pre-Outlook calendar day. So we're talking,
Yes.
we're talking.
No, I remember it. She printed out calendars and would write in it everything for the next few months and tape it to the inside cabinet in one of our cabinets in the kitchen.
Okay.
And so we all, maybe not always, but we learned to check the calendar in the kitchen for the next 3 months, whatever's on there.
Interesting.
But she had all of our sports and dance and activities and doctor's appointments and school events. And she had everything taken care of. She was always the one who planned for vacations as well. I think something that she likes. She now does vacation planning for people.
Do what you love, right?
Yes. I just know that was always hers.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think about now as well.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing, and I don't want to generalize too, right? But you had that very traditional, dad was at work, mom was at home, and mom was taking care of the house. And you can give names to it, right? The dad, the breadwinner, the homemaker, all those things. I hate those names. I think they're silly. But again, I think that's where that was what you saw growing up, right? So for me growing up, my mom worked. Sometimes they were maybe more odd job type things. So there was a lot of shared home type responsibilities. My mom did take on a lot of the chauffeuring us around to our things. My mom did a lot of the cooking. My dad also enjoyed cooking. And so I think there was definitely a little bit of that. My dad did grill. It was a shared, we got that shared experience there for sure. Again, my mom could grill.
Right.
I think still can grill, but yeah, dad was responsible for the grilling and everything there. My brother is younger than I am, and my brother was born. I think there was more put on my mom's plate because there was now 2 of us there. And so there was a lot that she was kind of juggling at the same time between the work, between the home, between she cared for her parents as they got older. And there was all of that went on as well. And I think that we sometimes forget about all the other things that our moms and our parents are responsible for. So, but when I look back at the differentiation of those roles, I would say there were defined roles in our house, but maybe a little more blurry with some of where those lines were drawn, just comparing it to what your experience was.
I wonder, what about personality wise?
Okay.
So I'll tell you about mine.
Yeah.
When I think personality wise, and I think that couples probably fill the space that the other doesn't fill, and it kind of expands from there. But my mom was the one who I can remember being more serious and more focused on making sure things were getting done the way that they had to get done. My dad was sillier and I think looser, and his focus was always on making the best joke, not necessarily making. And so I can't exactly remember, but I just kind of think then also my mom was probably one who maybe did more disciplining than my father. I honestly don't even remember what that looks like, but if I had to guess, my mom was probably the one who would make sure that we were behaving, just because if that's what my brain has to guess, that's what I would think.
Yeah.
And my dad was probably just more kind of go with the flow. I almost want to say like along for the ride, right? This still feels more logistical and planning and making sure the ship is running versus just.
You got a cruise ship. You got a captain on the cruise ship and you got a cruise director. You had your dad as a cruise director and your mom as that captain, making sure things were going in the right direction and people were doing what they were supposed to.
Yeah, I guess that fits. Yeah.
So for me, again, I think that there was maybe a little more of that blur. My dad was very serious at times. I would say most of the time, whereas my mom was a little more free flowing, go with the flow type of a thing. But that being said, both of my parents disciplined my brother and I. We both required discipline. To be very clear, we both required discipline.
Maybe that's why I don't remember it. I was just such a good kid. There you go. There was never, ever any discipline.
Well, ask your brother. But I think that my parent discipline to us was very different between the two of them. And to be honest with you, I don't know that they agreed on their disciplinary techniques. So I think that was probably something that they probably butted heads on a little bit. And maybe was again, just something that was different between the two of them. My parents were both very loving, or are. My mom was a very loving person. My dad's friend circle was very small. He had some very, very close friends, but it was a close-knit couple of people. My mom had more, and there was a larger group, and I remember seeing more of that. And that's something that as she has gone into retirement and gone into, being a little older, that I'm seeing her embrace that. It's this desire to reach out to family around the world that maybe, distant family that she doesn't talk to, or
Yeah.
friends and things like that, which is admirable and really interesting. And I think that that's where I see a little bit of the personality and, the differences between my mom and my dad.
Yeah, I like that. So we learned about what it was like to be taken care of from our moms and our parents. We learned about what it means to be a man and a woman in a home from our parents. And so let's now move to this last section here.
Sure.
I want to talk about learning all of these things that we did from what we saw growing up, what that has turned into in our lives now.
Yeah.
And so again, for us, with so much diversity of experience here between the two of us, we are both married with two girls of the same age.
Of the same age.
There's no diversity.
We live 15 miles apart from each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So either way, I think it's the exercise that's important for us, no matter how different everyone's experience is. I hope that what we are showing is what it's like to think, be curious, try and make sense of our experiences. Just for us, you'll see two similar ones.
Yeah. So for me, I don't like gender role conversation because I think that at least in the society that I would like to bring my girls up in, I'm hoping that my girls see is that it's a shared responsibility. My wife and I both work, right? So my girls see that both of us work and they recognize that both of us work. Now we do different things, and I travel for work where my wife doesn't travel for work. And so there's that dichotomy and differences there. We both are able to cook and clean and care for the house. I enjoy cooking, so therefore I cook more than my wife does. I don't like baking, therefore my wife bakes more than I do. But I think that for me, I am a big proponent in maybe breaking down some of these typical gender norms. What about you?
Yeah. However much I agree with you, when I think about my household, I'm not sure how far I've strayed from the gender norms. One thing that my wife and I would definitely agree about right now is if one of us had to work and the other could become the parent who stays home, it would for sure be me who stays home. She doesn't want to stop working.
Sure.
And I'm like, if we had the flexibility to stop working, I'm down. I'll take one for the team, and I will be humbled by learning how hard it actually is to do all of the other things anyways. But I would do it anyways. Yeah. I like to cook, and I try and go out of the way to do a lot of things around the house that I think is different than what I saw growing up. We do the dishes based on who puts the kids to sleep.
Okay.
So we split that one evenly. We also try and do that with the laundry. That being said, maybe growing up in a household where that wasn't something I had to take initiative on is backfiring, because it's very hard for me to remember bring the laundry down to the wash.
So laundry, I am good at a couple things when it comes to laundry. I'm good at making dirty laundry.
Okay.
Very good at making dirty laundry.
Very nice.
I'm also actually good at putting clothes in the washer and starting the washer. It's at that point that I begin to struggle. And it's the clothes need to come out of the washer and go to the dryer.
Yeah.
And not only that, but most importantly, they then need to be folded. I have a real knack for finding the load of laundry that's like 7 towels and doing my part to fold the towels. Whereas my wife
I did a whole load of laundry.
Whole load, right?
7 towels.
Whereas my wife will find the load, which is 4,000 pieces of little girl clothes. And she has to then figure out whose socks belong to who, where they go, put them into their rooms while they're sleeping without waking them up, because we end up folding laundry at night. So I would agree. Laundry is something that my wife definitely takes a leading role, if you will, in the laundry part of it.
My wife definitely is the one who makes it get to the laundry. If I ever do put a load in, like 40% chance I remember that I need to move it to the dryer. But I do a lot of folding. So that is something that I try to do more of.
What's funny is I'm very particular about how I like my clothes put away, yet I still can't make myself actually fold the clothes. I just get grumpy about it when it's not done the way I want. We've had these conversations, and my wife goes, "Great, do it yourself." And I'm like, "All right, fine, sounds good."
I like the honesty there. That was good. Yeah. I also think that we fall into what could be seen as traditional gender roles,
Mhm.
where I do the financial
Okay.
planning and financial management for
Yeah.
our family. And my wife does most of the organizing and planning and scheduling for the
Mhm.
family. Like I said, my mom did.
Sure.
And so that's interesting
Yeah.
because I look at that and see, wow, that was a big undertaking for my mother, but not something that
That you're gonna
it
take on.
naturally
Yeah.
happens for me. And I think a lot of what happens in relationships too, like we were talking about personality wise,
Mhm.
like my dad was silly, so maybe my mom didn't have as much room to be silly. If one parent kind of starts taking on one thing, the other doesn't. Not
Okay.
even parent, but one partner,
Sure.
even if you don't have kids, takes on one role, the other doesn't, and they take on other roles. That being said, it's still
Yeah.
definitely on my wife. Buying all the clothes, that for sure is on her.
Same.
I grocery shop. We
Yeah.
grocery shop whenever we can. Maybe
Yeah.
neither of us does that enough, but there are a lot of things that I do that was not modeled for me
Yeah.
growing up. And there are, I think, a lot of things that I think are pretty similar to what it looked like growing up, whether I like that or not,
Yeah.
if I'm to admit that right now.
Yeah. Well, as I sit here and I'm listening to you, I would agree. There's probably a lot of those things that almost subconsciously, my wife is the planner. I mean, she has
Mhm.
her calendar now a digitalized back of the cabinet, but it's still basically a back of the cabinet. It's color coded, and we live
Mhm.
by the schedule. I think we share some of the financial, parts of things, but again, it's all app based now. There's
Right.
little balancing of the checkbook.
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting, and then again, it forces me to think about what I do. I want to ask you a question though. What do you want your kids to look at gender roles as? What do you want your kids to look at, when they answer the questions when they're doing their podcast in 25 years from now? Like when they say like, what did your mom do or what did you learn from your mom? How do you want that question to be answered by your girls?
Wow.
It's a hard one.
Ah, yeah, that's a good question. See, I want my girls to take it one step farther.
Okay.
I think we keep seeing this. Our parents took it one step farther. We took it one step farther. I want them to take it one step
I
farther,
really love that.
where I think I do things differently than my dad did. And I think I do some things similar to what my mom did. And I just want it to be blurrier. I want it to be more based on what feels good for me and what intentional conversations did I have with my partner that make us realize, yeah, I'll be the one that looks out for laundry more. You be the one who looks out for the dishes more. Or I guess the bigger ones, I'll be the one who makes sure our kids have clothes. You be the one who makes sure the finances are taken care of. And maybe some of those things can be shared more. I want it to be more intentional, more specifically written out together instead of just let's throw everything up and see how it lands and we'll just go with it whether we like it or not.
Man, I love that. I love the way you said that simply. I want them to take it one step further because I
Yeah.
think that's where maybe we struggle as society sometimes and we kind of get stuck. Why we have the term societal norms is because they're norms. And challenging those norms is, I think, one of the things that we put in place with our podcast, right?
Right.
Challenging societal norms of what manliness looks like. But I love the way you put that, taking it one step further, being more intentional about that and
Yeah.
making it more blurry. Really like
Yeah.
that.
And thank you for making me think of that because I didn't practice for that one. It was
Yeah.
like, what do I want the answer to be here?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love that. That's a
Cool.
good answer.
Do you have one?
I think for me, I'm going to take it maybe more broad. I want my girls to see that their mom was someone who showed up regardless of whatever else is going on.
Hmm.
And I know that that can look a lot of different ways. And it doesn't mean letting your work take a back seat. It doesn't mean letting things in the house take a back seat, but it also doesn't mean doing everything and letting your mental health and physical health take a back seat, right? And
Yeah.
and so it maybe kind of sound contrary, but I want that to be what my girls see. And I want them to see it in a way where, yeah, mom did all these things for us, but also wasn't stressed about doing. My question for myself is, well, how, as the partner, how can I maybe enable that to happen? And what can I do? One of the problems that I have personally is I'm a fixer. And
Hmm.
so when my wife sometimes wants someone to just talk to and empathize with, I go, great, I hear what you're saying, but here's how we can fix that problem. And my wife looks at me, she goes, don't want to fix it, don't need to fix it, just want to tell you what the problem is and have you go, yeah, I hear you, and
I
that's
love
hard.
that. Yeah.
And so I need to figure out how I can facilitate that future vision without maybe fixing what I am seeing as a problem.
Yeah. You're understanding how your wife needs to be supported
Yeah.
in order for you to show your children this is what it looks like to be supported and to be
Yeah.
taken care of. And that's such a tricky one, right?
Super hard.
Here's the problem, I have to fix it.
Yeah.
When in reality, oftentimes our partners are bringing a problem to us. The thing that you need to fix is to make them not feel alone in it. And that's, I think, a
See, that's
beautiful.
where your therapy brain understands that perfectly and can make those words come out of your mouth.
Yeah,
I struggle with that, right? It's
for
hard to
sure.
see that that's, what is the problem, right? What is the challenge? And so I appreciate that perspective a lot.
Yeah, but I think that's beautiful that you're even thinking about it this way, because whether that was the exact way you were able to frame it or not, what you're basically saying is, I want my children to believe that they're worth someone coming alongside
Yeah.
them and being their partner and making sure they don't feel alone in
Yeah.
anything that's wrong.
I think one of the things that's interesting too, and again, as I think about maybe where we have the very similar lives is we both have daughters who,
Hmm.
and if they desire, can be moms later on in
Right.
life. I know that for my wife, being that model of what a quote unquote good mom is something that's very important to her to model that behavior for our girls. I would be interested if there were other people that were listening that don't have daughters, that maybe have sons and that will not have that opportunity, in the future to have that mom role, if you will.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to kind of hear what that looks like because I don't have that perspective,
Yeah.
and so it's one of these things that I think about sometimes. Is my wife a different mom because she has daughters than maybe she would be to a boy? And I don't,
Yeah.
again, I don't know the answer to that question.
That's interesting. You can't know the answer to that
Exactly,
question.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, we have people in our lives that hopefully are listening that can help to get us to that point. But it's just, yeah, something that I've thought about in the past for sure.
Yeah. I love that. I think this always what happens when we have these conversations is it goes in different directions and farther than I
Right.
thought it would. And so it always just feels good to be able to explore these thoughts and these ideas. And that is what I think we hoped the point of this would be.
Yeah.
Just the more you engage with a topic and want to understand something, the more you can understand about yourself.
So as we've been talking and sitting here and going through this, I have a thought, and I don't know where it goes in our segments, but I just want to bring it up of, this relationship with our moms. And
Mm.
for us, moms, at least for the most part, our moms are our first female relationship, and how that manifests itself, I think can, as we think about the manliness aspect of what does it look like to be a man, I think that can play a big role in how that looks and what that looks like. I know, for my mom, for example, her dad was her beacon of what a man should look like.
Mhm.
And I wonder sometimes if from a son's perspective, if our moms are that beacon of what a mom should look like in our
Mhm.
lives. And for me, I think that there are absolutely aspects of my mom that is the beacon of what a mom should look like.
Mm.
But in totality, I think that, like you said, we want to improve, we want to change, we want to take it a step further. And
Yeah.
so I think again, I don't know where where this goes in the segment, but as we've been
Yeah.
talking, it's something that I've been thinking about, in the light of the conversation.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's the idea of women marry their dads and men
Yeah.
marry their moms.
Yeah.
And yeah, it makes me wonder the relationship you develop with your parent. Is it teaching you how to be taken care of by others? And is it teaching you how to take care of others?
Interesting.
And I think that's a little bit of what comes up for me when we think
Yeah.
about this. How did I learn what I want to feel when people are taking care of me? And how did I learn this is what you do to take care of other people? And I think a lot of that comes from our moms. I think some of that comes from my
Yeah,
dad, but definitely
for
a lot
sure.
of that comes from my mom being the one who was more of that nurturing presence, especially early on in my life.
I think for me, for sure, and I don't want to speak for you, but what I'm hearing is there was a little more of that emotional connection
Yeah.
with my mom than there was with my dad, at least early on in my life.
Right.
When it was maybe most foundational, if you
Mhm.
will, of how to be there. And so that emotional aspect, that emotional connection that we learn very, very early on in life, in one way or the other, I think it can go different directions.
Sure.
For me, that was my mom.
Yeah, that was really good. A really good point to bring up. I'm glad you did that. So happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you.
Thanks,
Hope you're
Mom.
listening. Yeah, this was a good conversation. And so let's now end with our Ask a Therapist, Ask a Regular Guy. And we're going to stay on theme here. Bobby, you've got the
I've got the
Ask a Therapist
question.
mom question here.
So, here's the question. Therapy, oftentimes the fictional therapist, and you can tell me if it's fictional or non-fictional, but the fictional therapist says all of your problems are rooted in your problems with your mom. That's not a question. Talk to me about that statement as a therapist.
So you're wondering if that's fiction or nonfiction.
There we go.
Or you're saying that's fiction, right?
Is everything wrong with me my mom's fault?
Yes. Let me be more general here
There
than
we go.
that. No, not everything that is wrong with us comes from our moms. And just about everything that impacts us in our lives and that we react to and respond to in our lives, if you try hard enough, can be traced back to how we were treated by people growing up.
Okay.
And the people who we grew up around were mostly our parents. And so I wanted to add parents. It's not just the moms, but mostly our parents taught us the things we needed to get good at, or set the space up for us to have to get good at things, maybe because they didn't take care of us in the way that we needed to be taken care of. And so to some extent, that stereotype is there because it's somewhat accurate.
Okay.
It actually makes me think about, I think you sent, was it Instagram this past week?
Probably.
Where it was a dad and his two kids. I think they were standing in the garage holding hands.
Yep.
And there was someone speaking in the background and saying to all three of them, please take one step forward for anything that I'm about to say that is true for you. So the first thing he said was, take one step forward if your father has made you breakfast.
Okay.
The two kids stepped forward. Dad did not step forward. Take one step forward if your dad ever drove you to school. They did. He didn't. Everything they said, the kids took a step forward for. And they kept going and kept going. And at one point they said, take a step forward if your dad ever said, I love you. And they, of course, stepped forward.
Right.
And then one of the kids looked back and saw that the dad still has taken 0 steps. And she started to get upset and said, take one step forward if your dad ever said, I'm proud of you. She quickly took a step forward, then looked back and saw him still at the back of the garage. And she broke down and ran back to him. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because think about how impactful that is for all of the people in that picture.
Such a good point.
For that dad, there's so much he had to overcome because one of his parents didn't show up for him. And for that daughter, she was emotionally available enough, connected enough to this man because she had stepped forward on every single one of those things. That was the experience she was growing up with. And so our parents really, really do impact us. Our family members, the adults in our lives, they really do impact us that much. It is a little reductive if we go with it in the joking way they use it on TV of oh, trace it back to your mom. And
not entirely false.
Right. And all of the ways we learn to survive in this world start with what we had to survive early on in our lives. And so I think that's such a really good question because some people want to argue, oh, it can't be about that. But this is what we're doing. We're trying to make sense of the experiences in our lives, the impactful relationships in our lives so we can understand what it means now and what we want to do differently, right? It's not that what our parents did means everything is set in stone. It means we're going to respond until we're a little more intentional about what we want to happen next.
I love that. So regular guy answer. Yeah. The parent that you may have spent more time with growing up may have been your mom, right?
Right.
So when you, again, normal regular guy answer is you kind of continue to break down that math equation. Yeah, mom sometimes and oftentimes can be that one It's all the way back there shining the light of, it's my fault, I did it. Right? So,
and that's a lot of pressure on a mom too,
Yeah.
because it's not actually all their fault.
right,
They were just the most impactful because they were the most there, which is also really valuable.
right. Absolutely.
I'll give you another regular guy answer
Okay.
though, because,
Perfect.
and this is a regular guy answer I get from a lot of people in therapy,
Okay.
where they'll say, can we stop talking about my parents already? It can't always be about my parents. I don't want it to be about them anymore. Please, can we not do that? And so there is that instinct to say,
Yeah.
like, whether it's true or not, like, I don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think we're searching for other reasons,
Yeah.
because whether it could be for a variety of reasons that we don't want it to be about our parents, right? It could be we don't want to be about our parents because we had a bad relationship. We don't want to continue to bring that up.
right.
It could be, I don't want it to be about my parents because I have a really good relationship with my parents, and I don't want that relationship to potentially be tarnished by some of these things that are wrong with me or my parents' fault, but they're really awesome. And so,
Right.
but for me, at least, it's both, right? I don't want to speak for everybody. I would probably say it's pretty rare for 100% of our experiences with our parents and with our moms to be 100% of the time positive
Right.
for our entire lives. It was not that way for me. I don't want to speak for you. I don't think it was that way for you, but that can be hard to maybe dwell on the things that maybe weren't positive or weren't the good things.
Yeah, that's a
So,
good point. I like that. Like, if we have to look at this, then I don't get to see them in the exact light that I want to.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's still important.
So anyway,
That's a good
Mom,
question.
maybe it is your fault. I don't know. We'll have to.
Please, she's one of our biggest listeners. We don't
She
want to alienate her ears.
Anyway, well, I appreciate the therapist answer to my regular guy question. And again, if you ask a therapist, ask a regular guy questions, please let us know. Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast or questions at manuptogetherpodcast.com.
Or you can leave a comment on YouTube,
On
and we'll
YouTube.
check it out.
Absolutely. So appreciate it. This was fun.
Yeah, appreciate you. And so we will see you next week, where we will continue to man up together.
Do it.
The Man Up Together podcast was produced and edited by Alex Peskin and Bobby Jacobs. Special thank you to our wives, family, friends, and coworkers who have supported us in so many ways throughout this process. You can find us on Instagram at Man Up Together Podcast, and you can email us at questions@manuptogetherpodcast.com. If you are interested in joining us on this journey, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone you care about. Thank you for listening. See you next week.